My name is Christina, and you're watching my channel, Let's Do Something Real. Alright, so there's good news and there's bad news. Let's start with the bad news. Bad news first?
Sure.
Bad news is we are pretty certain that the bigger hive is toast. When we opened it up to close up all the openings and stuff like that, and then we duct tape all around it, and it's basically Fort Knox now, but when we did that, there were not like many bees. There was hardly any.
Rainy. And it's so sad. Dang, it smells like honey in there still.
That's probably because it's been uncapped.
Yeah. So yeah, what they do is they come in and they uncap a bunch of honey, and which, you know, gives them access to the honey, but it also smells like crazy for all of the other bees in the area. It's like a beacon. I would be astonished if there was still a queen in there. And even if so, they might not have the numbers to even make it. So
It's true. And the bees that were in there that we saw could very well have been invading bees.
True. Yeah. So that's the bad news. But a couple pieces of good news, actually. The good news is that clearly it's comfortable to sit in our backyard again, which means the robbing action has significantly decreased. We got the robbing screens and got the top boards and totally fortified. I think that I was fighting a losing battle for days because that top hive body on the big hive is just so damaged, and especially without that top board on there, it was like an open door, and I was trying so hard to plug up all of the entrances, and there was just too many entrances to plug up.
It was secondhand, and the gentleman who sold it to us, all the different boxes, he hadn't intended to use them for beekeeping this year, but the bees took up residence anyway. And so we didn't have a chance to really go over it and clean it and make sure that all the boxes sat flush, you know, on top of each other. There's all kinds of little cracks and nooks and crannies where they could make it in.
And the thing was, they weren't using any of the other spots they could have gotten in and out. So we wouldn't have known. We had no idea that bees could enter in those other spots until it was too late. So
it really is worth mentioning again just how much we've learned through this process. We really went in, I mean, you watch the YouTube videos, but you're basically blind going in, completely green. We put down a wire mesh that was very stiff and rigid, and we bent it down over the entrance at the bottom.
Something we had seen other people do.
Saw it on YouTube, and it was a cool idea, but they still managed to sneak their way in there.
Wiggled their little butts underneath there.
So determined.
So determined. And I mean, I understand. The thing about robbing is that you're realizing just how desperate all of the bees in the area are, because we have had a terrible drought this summer, and typically at this time the fall flowers are starting to come out a little bit more than they are, and they're not right now. So we have what we call a nectar gap.
Because it was so hot this summer that we didn't get a lot of nectar.
And what's that called?
A nectar dearth.
And what does it mean to have a dearth?
It means that thing is like you don't have a lot of, and it's so precious.
That's right. Just like you. Precious. At first, you're like, oh no, my bees are getting robbed. And then our goal is to move toward a more permaculture style of living. And in that means that you start to practice looking at the bigger picture. So yeah, it sucked that our bees were getting robbed, but at the same time, I mean, those bees are also part of the big picture here in our neighborhood, you know, ecosystem.
They're still pollinators.
They're still pollinators. They're still wonderful for, you know, the planet, and the existence of all life.
It's hard to be too upset because we wanted honey eventually from our hive. And yeah, you develop a bit of an emotional attachment to the bees.
But it's not really about us.
It's about making sure that there are pollinators on the planet and doing our part to help. And even if it isn't our bees, there are still bees that are fighting the good fight.
Yeah, they're somewhere, and maybe our hive failing, I suppose.
Yeah, being taken and raided.
Maybe our hive being raided.
Boosts up those
boosts
other hives.
up a couple other hives, because it was definitely like more than
Probably
one.
two.
At least two different hives invading, because I had seen them definitely flying off in two different directions.
We're still green. We're still learning.
So.
But we've been picking things up. And now, like Christina said, our both of our hives are basically Fort Knox.
Oh, that's the second piece of good news. The littler hive is still doing great.
So we're out here tonight. We're feeding this hive. These girls, oh, these girls are my heroes. Look at them go. They're doing awesome. We're gonna go fast here. Get these girls fed and done and closed up so that we're not exposing them or releasing any kind of smells into the air. But this way I don't have to worry about them not having what they need to sustain their hive while we close them up.
And
Surprisingly.
I've been watching so closely because the robbers are after that one now.
They've been trying, but they haven't made any headway.
But luckily, we learned, we went through and we made sure that every little nook and cranny, and we did this at night because we had to open the hive in order to...
Don't open your hive during a frenzied robbing. Or any robbing. I didn't know either. It's important to understand that we made these decisions as a couple. And neither one of us knew. Neither one of us knew. So when she suggested it, I said, yeah, why not? Because we didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't know what robbing looked like. You can compare it to YouTube videos, but the ones that we've seen were so mild. Just a little bit of traffic.
Yeah.
This was like full-blown swarm, like two swarms on our hive. And we didn't know what we were looking at. Are they splitting? Are they getting ready to take
Are they
off?
gonna swarm? Like there was so many possibilities, and it just took further observation to realize, like, oh no, it's
something else.
It's something else, yeah. But we opened it up at night after the robbers had all gone home. We buttoned up everything. I have to give credit to the robbing screens. Those things are great. Like if you see robbing, if you have hives at home and you see robbing starting, like, don't even try anything else.
It was like $16.99, I think.
$17 piece of plastic, but it's all vented and everything, and it's super non-destructive. Like, it's just push pins, so you're not like screwing holes into your hive or anything like that. So it's not going to damage it, and that really has been like the saving grace on the littler hive, because the only other thing we did to that hive was put on the top board onto the top hive body, and we didn't even duct tape that one because that top hive body isn't damaged, so it laid nice and flat. And we just put the lid back on and weighed the lid down, and that was literally all it took to make that hive secure, was to just get the right equipment. Honestly, it was worth it because we tried everything that we have. I mean, I tried the cloth, we tried the wire hardware mesh, I tried some like flexible cloth mesh stuff, and it was futile. We had to get the right equipment. Lots of things that we've learned, and hopefully anybody out there can learn from our mistakes. But again, hands-on is the only way to actually make these things click, because we watched so many YouTube videos. We did a lot of reading. We did a lot of reading of online articles, books. Like, we soaked up all of this knowledge before going into it, and we still messed up and didn't like understand what was happening, because really you don't know until you're in front of it. And that's been a really hard thing to come by because it's COVID and beekeeping classes have not been available. So we've never been able to actually get in and deal with the hives until we had our own. So it's all brand new to us, and I think in the long run we're actually doing a pretty good job. Yeeps. I'm not a flower. No, we're just staring at the bees.
Just stare at the bees.
Oh, I had a question. Somebody asked me, does it really matter if they get robbed out, because aren't the new bees going to create honey anyways? Good question. Sometimes a robbing hive will inhabit the hive, and they'll like brood their new queen, and they'll take over, and they'll be like, hey, we live here now. More often, they just want to take the resources back to their own hive. And that's what happened here. They just wanted to get in, take all the stuff, and go home. They didn't want to live there.
They also often kill the queen, apparently, because it'll demoralize the defending bees and make it easier for them to get in and get what they want and get out.
Yeah.
So we haven't actually gone in there and checked to see if the queen is still there, because the robbing is still going on.
Yeah.
It's greatly diminished, but it's still going on.
They need to be kind of like pulled up for a good long time until I see 0 invading bees looking at that hive. Right now it's, you know, it's a fraction of what it was, but it's not 0. So I'm not even gonna take the chance that 1 or 2 of them are gonna get in there and be like, hey, we found something, and to take the news back to all their buddies and bring them all over again. No thanks. The wonderful thing is come next fall, we've already got all this equipment. So if we see it starting, we can just like get at it. We can just put the correct equipment on it, and we know what to do, and that's valuable.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We've learned so much through all of this, so despite the downsides, we are feeling positive and like we have this whole new wealth of knowledge to go forward with. Don't worry, this is not going to stop us from continuing with beekeeping. We are far more stubborn than that. We still have a lot to learn, and we're going to take you on that journey. Until then, go get happy. See you all soon.